You're sitting in a university library, the kind with high ceilings and the smell of old paper, staring at a screen until the numbers start to swim. You're 22. You think you're a genius because you can solve an elliptic curve equation faster than your professors. You think math is a game of logic, a clean, beautiful world where there is always a right answer. You've spent your life winning competitions and hacking into unhackable servers just to prove you could. To you, encryption is just a lock. And you are the person who finds the skeleton key, then you find it. It's not a job posting on a government website. It's a string of code hidden in the metadata of a public research paper on prime numbers. To anyone else, it's a glitch. To you, it's a map. You follow the logic, skipping through layers of hidden directories, solving three-dimensional puzzles that haven't been published in any textbook. At the end of the trail, there is no congratulations message. There is only a blank white box asking for a phone number. You enter yours. 4 months pass. You graduate. You take a job at a tech startup in London, designing apps for people to order overpriced coffee. You forget about the white box. You assume it was a dead end or a prank by another student. Then, on a Tuesday, while you're standing in line for the tube, your phone vibrates. An unknown number. You answer, and the voice on the other end doesn't introduce herself. She doesn't ask how you are. She simply recites the solution to the final puzzle you solved in that library. You missed a decimal in the third layer, she says, her voice as flat as a dial tone. But your logic was elegant. Be at the address we just sent to your encrypted folder in 1 hour. Don't bring your phone. Don't tell your boss you're leaving. You walk out of the station and into a different life. The address is a nondescript office building in a part of the city that doesn't show up on tourist maps. No sign on the door. No receptionist. Just a heavy steel door and a biometric scanner. You step inside, and the air smells like ozone and server fans. There are no tuxedos here. No car chases. Just 6 people in a room, staring at monitors. The lead officer looks at you. He doesn't shake your hand. He hands you a tablet with a single, massive string of encrypted text. This was intercepted an hour ago. From a state-sponsored hacking group, he says. Our current supercomputers say it will take 800 years to crack. We think you can find a shortcut in 80 minutes. If you can't, don't bother coming back tomorrow. You sit down. Your heart is hammering against your ribs. But as your fingers touch the keys, the world goes quiet. You are thinking about politics or spies or war. You're looking for the pattern. You're looking for the ghost in the machine. You find the flaw at minute 74. A tiny, microscopic repetition in the random number generator. You pull the thread, and the whole wall of code collapses. The officer looks at the decrypted text. It's a list of coordinates for a deep-sea cable. He nods once. He doesn't say, well done. He says, the vetting starts now. We're going to look at every lie you've ever told, every person you've ever loved, and every cent you've ever spent. If you survive the next 6 months, we'll show you what we're really working on. We'll show you the machine that makes this math look like a child's toy. You walk out into the sunlight, and for the first time, the world looks fragile. You realize that everything, the banking system, the power grid, the secret messages of the government is held together by a thin layer of math, and you just realized how easy it is to break. You're already learning the first rule of the service. The more you know, the less you sleep. The vetting doesn't just feel like an investigation. It feels like an autopsy. They take your life apart and lay the pieces out on a cold table. They don't care about your achievements. They care about your attack surface. They interview your childhood friends to see if you can keep a secret. They track your spending to see if you can be bought. They map your digital footprint back to the first email you ever sent. By the time they hand you your clearance badge, you feel like a ghost in your own skin. You aren't a person anymore. You're a cleared asset. Your training begins in a facility the veterans call the silo. It's an old Cold War bunker, retrofitted with liquid-cooled server racks that hum with the sound of 1,000 hives. This is where you learn the old world tradecraft. Before you can break the future, you have to master the present. You are assigned to a desk in the Signals Intelligence SIGINT division. Your job is to maintain the keys, the massive, complex prime numbers that protect the nation's most sensitive communications. You learn that the modern world is built on a foundation of computational hardness. Current encryption, like RSA or ES, isn't actually unbreakable. It's just too expensive to crack. It relies on the fact that a traditional computer, the kind on your desk or in your pocket, would take longer than the age of the universe to factor. A 208-bit number. You are the gatekeeper of that wall. You rotate keys, check for leaks, and monitor the brute force attempts coming from rival states. thousands of attempts every second. A constant digital rain hitting the shield, but then they take you to the dark room. There is no computer here, just a chalkboard and a man who hasn't seen the sun in weeks. He shows you Shaw's algorithm. It's a mathematical formula that, on paper, proves that if you had a computer that worked differently, one that didn't use bits, but something else, the unbreakable math of the world would vanish in seconds. Everything you're protecting out there is already dead. He tells you, tapping the board, we're just waiting for the coffin to open. This is the harvest now. Decrypt Later doctrine. You watch as terabytes of encrypted data are intercepted and stored. You aren't reading them. You can't. But you're collecting them because you know that in 5, 10 or 15 years, the technology will arrive to peel them open like an orange. You realize you are working for a future that hasn't happened yet. You start to look at every encrypted message, your own bank transfers, your parents' emails, and you don't see security. You see a ticking clock. You spend your nights practicing zero-knowledge proofs. You learn how to prove you have a secret, without ever revealing a single piece of the secret itself. It's a mental exercise that starts to reshape your personality. You become vague. You learn to speak in ambiguous environments. You can sit in a pub with your old university friends and talk for 3 hours without actually saying anything about your life. You're becoming a master of the black box. You see the inputs, you see the outputs, but the process remains hidden, even from those closest to you. By the end of your second year, the math of the ordinary world starts to feel thin. You've mastered the 1 second and 0 second. You've learned how to build walls and how to spot the cracks in them. But you're restless. You've heard the rumors about the basement levels, the places where the temperature is kept at absolute 0 and the laws of physics start to break. You're ready to stop guarding the wall. You're ready to see the machine that's going to tear it down. The transition to level 3 happens in a service elevator that requires a different kind of key. You descend past the server rooms, past the generators, until the air turns thin and biting. This is the cryo floor. The ambient noise of the building, the hum of fans and the chatter of offices, is replaced by a heavy, pressurized silence. In the center of a glass-walled room hangs the chandelier. It's a towering, intricate skeleton of gold-plated copper and wires, encased in a vacuum-sealed cylinder. This is a dilution refrigerator. At its base, the temperature is colder than deep space, fractions of a degree above absolute 0. This is the only place in the universe where the ghost can live. You are no longer dealing with bits. You are introduced to the qubit in your old life at level 2. A switch was either on or off. A door was either open or closed. Here, the door is both open and shut at the exact same time. This is superposition. Your instructors don't use textbooks. They use thought experiments that make your head ache. They explain that while a classical computer tries to find the exit of a maze by running down every path one by one, the quantum computer simply fills the entire maze like a gas. It is at every dead end and the exit simultaneously. It doesn't calculate the answer. It is the answer. Your training shifts from math to coherence management. You learn that qubits are fragile. A stray vibration, a tiny change in temperature, or even the act of looking at them can cause decoherence. The ghost vanishes. The calculation collapses. You learn to handle information that is so sensitive that the mere act of observing it changes its nature. This begins to bleed into your psychological profile. You start to view truth as a probabilistic state. You learn the quantum liaison style of communication, providing answers that satisfy the questioner without actually committing to a single reality. You move through the embassy or the office like a particle in a cloud. You are everywhere and nowhere. One night, an instructor sits you down and shows you the Bell state. He explains entanglement, the idea that two particles can be linked across the universe. If you spin one, the other spins instantly, faster than the speed of light. In our world, he whispers, distance is an illusion. Secrets don't travel. They exist in two places at once. If an enemy touches a message in Beijing, we feel the vibration in London instantly. That is the future of intelligence. Total, instantaneous awareness. You realize then that you aren't just a cryptographer anymore. You are a candidate for a new kind of consciousness. You are learning to think in a world where either no longer exists. You are being prepared to step into the void, where the rules of the physical world are replaced by the logic of the subatomic. You are no longer just watching the clock. You are learning how to stop it entirely. At level 4, you leave the cryo floor and return to the surface. But you aren't the same. You carry the quantum headache, a permanent shift in how you perceive data. You are assigned to the data graveyards, massive, climate-controlled warehouses in the English countryside that store nothing but noise, Static. Gibberish. This is the headquarters of the SNDL protocol. Store now, decrypt later. Your job is no longer to solve puzzles. It is to be a librarian of the invisible. You manage the ingestion of high-value encrypted traffic, intercepted from foreign diplomatic cables, dark web marketplaces, and the private servers of aerospace corporations. To the rest of the world, these files are useless piles of random characters. To you, they are PI quantum artifacts. They are gold bars locked in a safe that hasn't been invented yet. You develop a harvesting instinct. You don't look for what is being said. You look for the volume of the secret. You identify which encrypted streams contain the blueprints for next-generation fusion reactors or the real names of deep cover assets. You tag them. You categorize them. You move them into deep cold storage optical discs and quartz glass that can last for centuries. The psychological weight of level 4 is unique. You are holding the most explosive secrets in history, but you are blind to them. You know a war is being planned in a specific file, but you can't see the date or the target. You are blind seer. You spend your days looking at a wall of static, knowing that behind it lies the truth of the world. You begin to live in a state of chronological dissonance. You deal with 10-year-old intercepts as if they were fresh intelligence. Because in the quantum age, time is irrelevant. A secret is only secret until the machine is turned on. You start to treat your own digital life with a terrifying caution. You realize that the private message you send today will be an open book for a 22-year-old harvester in a foreign intelligence service 15 years from now. You learn digital hygiene that borders on paranoia. You stop using consumer-grade encryption. You start writing things on paper and burning the ashes. You realize that in the long game of quantum intelligence, the only way to keep a secret is to never digitize it. You are the bridge between the age of math and the age of physics. You are the one who ensures that when the great decryption begins, your nation isn't starting from scratch. You are building the library of the future. And as you sit in the silence of the warehouse, listening to the hum of the hard drives, you realize the terrifying truth. Your enemies are doing the exact same thing to you. At level 5, you are no longer a librarian or a student. You are a combatant in a war that hasn't officially started. You are moved to a high-security cell in Vauxhall Cross, known as the Q-Day Response Unit. Your calendar doesn't count down to the weekend. It counts down to Q-Day, the hypothetical moment a rival power activates a cryptographically relevant quantum computer. Your role is post-quantum transition. You are a recoder of reality. Your task is to lead the migration of the nation's entire digital nervous system from traditional math to lattice-based cryptography. These are mathematical structures so complex, so multidimensional, that even a quantum computer gets lost in their corridors. You are building the new walls while the old ones are already beginning to crumble. The pressure is suffocating. You are in a race against every other intelligence service on the planet. If the hard target nations Russia, China, or non-state syndicates reach the functional qubit threshold before you finish the migration, the great exposure begins. Every bank transaction, every undercover agent's location, and every nuclear launch code currently in transit will belong to them. You spend your days identifying critical infrastructure vulnerabilities. You realize that the water treatment plant in a small Midlands town is still using a 10-year-old encryption protocol. You realize the satellite uplink for the Navy is susceptible to a shore's attack. You become a digital architect, retrofitting the world with quantum-resistant shields. Psychologically, you are now a divergent thinker. You have to anticipate attacks that don't follow the rules of logic. You learn to spot quantum side-channel attacks, where an adversary doesn't try to break the math, but instead measures the heat or the electromagnetic radiation coming off your quantum sensors. You are constantly looking for the leak in a system that is supposed to be perfect. Your marriage, if it survived the vetting of level 1, begins to show the cracks. You can't explain why you're obsessed with multivariate equations at dinner. You can't explain the dread you feel when you see a news report about a breakthrough in superconducting materials in an Eastern laboratory. To your spouse, it's just tech news. To you, it's a siren warning of the end of privacy as we know it. You are the bridge. You are standing between the dying world of bits and the emerging world of qubits. You carry the weight of knowing that if you slip, if you miss even one legacy system, the history of your country will be laid bare for its enemies to read like a tabloid. You are the only thing standing between a functioning society and a total informational blackout. The day finally arrives. There is no press release, no public announcement, and no change in the weather. You are led into the primary chamber, a room lined with lead and copper, shielding that blocks every frequency known to man. In the center sits the completed machine. It doesn't look like a computer. It looks like a heart, a complex pulse of light and gold. You are now a Decryption Master. You sit at the console and enter the first harvester file from the data graveyards of level 4 10 years ago. This file was a wall of static. You initiate the Grover search protocol. On a classical computer, you would wait centuries. Here, the machine enters a state of entanglement with the data. The static doesn't just clear. It rearranges itself. The 1S and OS dissolve into a fluid, shimmering reality. Seconds later, the secret is yours. It is a transcript of a private conversation between two world leaders from 2016. You read their real thoughts, their hidden agendas, and the betrayals they thought they would take to their graves. You realize that history, as the public knows it, is a lie. You are reading the subtext of the world. This is the God-eye phase of your career. You begin to work through the backlog of the last 2 decades. You uncover the identities of double agents who died thinking they were safe. You see the true financial records of shadow corporations. You watch the black box of the global elite turn transparent. You are the master of a world that doesn't even know it has been exposed. But the God-eye comes with a terrible price. Absolute isolation. You know things that could collapse governments or trigger civil wars. You know who was murdered and who was paid off. You carry the informational burden of an entire civilization. You can no longer look at a person, a colleague, a friend, or a politician without seeing the decrypted truth of their past. To you, everyone is an open book, and most of the pages are dark. Your personality undergoes its final decoherence. You become a silent observer. You stop judging people by what they say and start judging them by the quantum shadow they leave behind. You are the only person in the room who knows that their unbreakable is broken. You are the master of the void, sitting in a cold room, watching the secrets of the world drift past you like autumn leaves. You have reached the summit of the ladder, only to find that the air at the top is too thin to breathe.